And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 30. Well, I've been promising to do this one for a very long time, and now the day has finally come where we can talk about one of these very special Aerostars. If you've watched this series before, perhaps you know what I'm talking about already. We're going to get into a couple of high-dollar Aerostars here in the next couple of videos. And I am using Auto Tempest, which I use quite often. You can search basically everything, Facebook and Craigslist and the whole wide world of cars, all from one central database. I am not sponsored by Auto Tempest, but if they would like to sponsor me, I am a frequent user of their product. And I'll tell you, I could, command a lot less money than some of those other channels. So Auto Tempest, you know what to do. So without further ado, here we have a beautiful, striking, immaculate 1986 Ford Aerostar Xlt with just 75,587 miles on it. Here is the cars.com listing. Of course, I will go back to Auto Tempest for a second and just show you their beautiful layout, where you can search everything and maybe a preview of what's to come here on Year of the Aerostar. But let's get back to it. This is a cars.com listing, which is one of the sites that Auto Tempest searches. We have some beautiful pictures here, and perhaps you've seen some other cars sold from this seller because they do have quite a striking background here. This Aerostar is being sold for $10,400, which is actually a $1,500 price drop from its original selling price, meaning that they're trying to sell this baby and it hasn't gone yet. What can we say? Well, a lot. First of all, this is a pristine Aerostar, and I have to give some backstory because I saw this Aerostar for sale, and I always keep receipts. I'm always screen grabbing and documenting everything I see, and for whatever reason, I didn't do that with this one. It was a little bit before I started this series, but this was sold on Craigslist. Almost positive it was the same car because it looks exactly the same, and how many like mint condition 86 Aerostars can there be in this paint scheme and yada yada yada. It was going for like $6,100, $6,200. All right. Then it was sold, and I lamented it because I couldn't come up with the money and go to Michigan where it was being sold and yada yada yada. Just couldn't do it. Didn't have the means. Couldn't make it work. Then I saw it for sale on Marketplace again for something like $12,000 or $13,000, also from a private seller. So obviously they had purchased the vehicle, and now we're trying to upsell it for almost twice the amount. Which, I gotta say, Jay Leno talks about this. Like when someone sells a car, half the time people that want to sell him cars want to sell them to him just because they want to go to, a good home, as it were. They don't want to sell a car that they've owned for so many years and then see it pop up on Bring a Trailer for double the money. And that was essentially what this seller was doing. He was flipping it. And I'm not here to tell anyone, not to make a living for themselves. It's not really a critique, but sometimes, and obviously, these are cars, they're objects. They're not people's lives and their well-being and providing for their families and all that. But it did just seem like the seller got a crazy deal on this Aerostar and then was immediately just flipping it. And while insofar as doing that, raising the price alone is going to probably prolong the life of this vehicle, because then it becomes an asset, then it becomes a collectible. So in a way, it's good that these prices rise, because these rare birds, these rare Aerostars that are really in just amazing condition. It was a one-owner vehicle from the original seller who was selling it. And also, maybe he put some work into it. Maybe he needed a couple things, even just detailing it and, getting the engine, up to snuff. Maybe he had to change a battery. Maybe there was money that went into it to sort of command this rate hike. But that's the backstory. So I have a personal, not personal, digital relationship with this vehicle. I've sort of followed it a little bit. Also striking to me because it is a 1986, the first year of production. I myself have a 1986 Ford Aerostar that is not nearly in this pristine condition. However, this is an automatic and mine is a manual, which I find to be even rarer still. And I love my brown Aerostar and all of those things. And I like the Janky jank. So honestly, this might be a little bit out of my league because it's almost too nice. You know, what do you do with it? The other funny thing about this particular Aerostar, before we get into some of the pictures, it is being sold by GNR Auto Gallery, and shout out to them. They seem like they sell some really, really cool cars. So my guess is it is being taken on consignment, because on their website, the best way to sell a unique vehicle, it says exotic, vintage, and classic car dealer. They do consignment. So my guess is the person that bought this from the original owner and then tried to sell it through Marketplace is now consigning it. That's my guess. So when we go to inventory, we have Grand Rapids, Traverse City, Metro Detroit, Indianapolis, and then their sold inventory. So they obviously have several warehouses throughout, like, sort of the Midwest, the Middle West, as they used to call it. And I believe this is in the Grand Rapids location. I could be wrong about that, but I would like to view the actual vehicle on the website itself of the seller rather than sort of one of the third party. Okay, here we go. In quotes, the Wayback Time Machine. I suppose that's accurate. So, offered at $10,400. The nice thing about this is we have just a treasure trove of images. So I would like to read the description, because that's the other funny thing and the other little bit of beef I'll create out of thin air for this. Ford was playing some catch up to Chrysler in regards to the quote-unquote minivan and the extremely high demand that families were putting on this new style of transportation. The Aerostar was larger and immediately was offered with a passenger sliding door. Comfort was paramount for the driver and passengers, with a host of features to make any commute or road trip a pleasure. Well, no argument there. And you know, I guess I take a little bit of issue with Ford was playing some catch up to Chrysler in regards to the minivan. And while that is true just insofar as the Chrysler Voyager or Caravan or Town and Country, whatever you want to call it, all three of those did come out before the Aerostar. However, what I always say about the Aerostar is it's sort of this hybrid between a van, a car, and a truck, whereas the Caravan was, you know, Lee Iacocca's brilliance, and he had like 28 cars all based on essentially the same platform, and that was a car-based front-wheel drive minivan. This, the Aerostar, of course, is more of a truck-based. It is rear-wheel drive, aside from the all-wheel drive versions, which came later. It's a little bit beefier, and while it is a very comfortable ride, I think that what Ford was doing, while it did encapsulate sort of the minivan ethos and certainly appealed, and they certainly wanted to sell minivans, it was also sort of this general utility vehicle where there was a cargo version of it with barn doors and nothing in the back, you know, like a sedan delivery situation. So I think while, yes, they were technically playing catch-up, they also had more of a broad vision of this garageable van. You know, previous to that, vans were just like these Econolines. They were these huge, massive things that didn't get very good fuel mileage, weren't particularly comfortable to drive in. And the Aerostar, and of course the Astro along with it, the Astro and Safari by Chevy and GMC respectively, they also went that route, and they also had sort of a truck-based platform where all-wheel drive was available. Now, the Astro was sold, I believe, all the way till like 2004, whereas the Aerostar was stopped production in 1997. And the Astro van, I can't tell you how many people, even people that are quite familiar with my Aerostar lust and my Aerostar radical obsession, they'll call it, oh, how's your Astro van? Or how's your, and sometimes they say Astrostar, which is a very funny, you know, mashup of, it's like sort of half right. But a lot of people just assume that it's an Astro, or they when they think of in their mind, they think of the Astro van. And certainly the Astro van has taken sort of the star, no pun intended, away from the Aerostar. It is what people think about when they think about these 80s and 90s, like sort of truck-based minivans, these overlanding vehicles that have become campers and become quite popular. I think the Aerostar is right up there. I don't trash Astros because I believe the Astro is a great van, but I don't see why the Aerostar always plays second fiddle and gets forgotten about. Now, part of that is just because the Astros are made so much longer, and a lot of times what you'll see is people buying 97 through 2004 Astros. So just by virtue of being made longer, those cars are now in the present day newer, and they hold up a little bit better. And people always say the Astros, you know, are just better vehicles than Aerostars. Well, you know, if the Aerostar was made till 2004 with its same body style, I would be more than willing to bet you'd see a lot more Aerostars. And who could have imagined what they could have done in that additional, you know, 7 or 8 years of engineering to improve the Aerostar further. So that's just my little spiel on that. It's very funny because I have a friend from Switzerland, and when anyone talks about him, it's like, oh, are you guys visiting Sweden, or you guys went to Sweden, or your friend from Sweden? So it's funny that there's this perfect analogy between Switzerland and Sweden to the Astro and the Aerostar. They sound the same, they start with the same letter, they're both, you know, in the same category. Like when people think of that, they just think of like, oh, it's somewhere off in Europe, or, you know, west of the Pacific Ocean. Is that right geographically, or are they we're going west, right? Just like the Aerostar and the Astros, you know, take this similar, or maybe it's east of the Atlantic. It's over the pond, you know. This is showing you how much of an idiot I am. I guess we're flying east here. You know, maybe I'll just have to look at a map. There. So on year of the Aerostar now, all of a sudden, because I am such a crazy idiot, we're going to look at a map of the world, which I can't do now because everything is just completely impossible to do. And anytime you go to any website now, it makes you go through 8 million advertisements and everything. So let's zoom out here, get my geography. You know, it's always that funny. It's like 9 out of 10 Americans can't. Yeah, we're going east. Okay, we're flying east across the Atlantic, not across the Pacific. Showing my, they always say, you know, 9 out of 10 Americans can't locate, you know, Afghanistan on a map when you talk about the war or whatever like that. It's like, well, 10 out of 10 janky Aerostars owners don't know which direction Europe is in. So take that for what it's worth. A little digression here. This is why I can't talk about these really big ones, because you know, my head just explodes and go off in all sorts of tangents. Still, I think the analogy is apt. All right. So let's continue on with the description, shall we? Offered here is a remarkable find, and only one previous owner prior to us finding this special van. So it has to be the same van. This 1986 Ford Aerostar Xlt only has 75,000 miles and in remarkable condition inside and outside. The vehicle appears to be all original paint, and the shadow gray clear coat with silver metallic two-tone setup screams 1980s. Shadow gray is a very, very beautiful color, and that must be the dark color, which is sort of a dark blue with a grayish. Now, I have to be honest, not my favorite. You know, to me, I've gotten in trouble for this, but I'm not a huge fan of silver generally for cars, and actually blue is probably my second least favorite color. So I like more of the browns and bronzes and that sort of thing. But you know, no argument with the fact that this is an absolutely pristine vehicle. Inside, you will find a luxurious setup with 4 captain's chairs, also very rare. Captain's chair is very rare for an Aerostar. Removable third-row bench seat and deluxe cloth and carpet. Deluxe cloth and carpet. Vehicle retains fantastic features such as premium cloth interior, AM/FM stereo with equalizer. Another great thing about cars in the 80s and 90s, even like I believe like the Plymouth Laser, that Mitsubishi Eclipse badge job, they all had like little equalizers actually on the stereo where you could like sort of fine tune the levels. And that seems like a feature which technologically has moved backwards, because now to fiddle with a stereo on a car, you need to go into all the settings and the balance and the bass, and then you're turning the knob and it switches, and just a manual mechanical equalizer seems like such a great thing to have on a vehicle, and yet you know, it's gone by the wayside largely. Onboard computer. I love an onboard computer. What does that mean? That screams 80s to me. Now, you know, cars have 1 million computers, but onboard computer, I guess it just means some sort of digital instrumentation. Tilt wheel. cruise control, auto dimming rear view mirror, power windows, power locks, power mirrors, rear wiper, 4-speed automatic with overdrive, high capacity AC system. We're not told if that's working or not, roof rack, and privacy glass. This is a wonderful example in condition and automotive. This is wonderful example in condition and automotive history. Now that sentence doesn't make, it's funny because even this beautiful, wonderful write-up on this sort of, classic car emporium with these beautiful high quality images, still we find grammatical errors. So it just goes to show that even, the Craigslist posts where it seems like someone's up at 3 in the morning and they've drinking too much Mountain Dew and they're hammering out this post to try to get up as quickly as possible. Even here we see grammatical errors. So that's kind of a nice, equalizing thing. Neither here nor there. This is wonderful example in condition and automotive history to share with the next owner and could be used as a daily driver or stashed away for another 5 years and watch your investment grow better than the stock market. Well, there's some high praise for the Aerostar. This Aerostar, if you buy it, will actually outperform the stock market. What better reason is there to buy a Ford Aerostar? Vehicle comes with original MSRP, $16,525, which is amazing because, well, it's too bad it's not listed for $16,500 and it's actually, it's being sold for its original price. Factory owner's manuals, 2 sets of keys, manufacturer brochure, clean Carfax, and factory service guide. Don't snooze on this one, as finding another like this may never come up again. Well, let's hope they're wrong. But yeah, I would say once this thing is gone, it will be very hard to find one that's quite this nice. Now, the funny thing about this is I've actually seen Aerostars with fewer miles, 50, 40, 30. And yet this has 75,000 on it and is still so clean and pristine, which is kind of remarkable that they were able to rack up 75,000 miles on this and still keep it so pristine. A testament to the owner for sure. So let's take some pictures here. Of course, this is not great. When you click on the individual image, the whole web page kind of floats and makes you dizzy. And then if you click on the picture itself, it opens a new window which you can't see. And maybe we can drag this in here. A little janky, a little old school, but that's all right. Just amazing. Now it's funny. This is why I fail to understand about the last one, because I believe this is, now maybe this is a 4-cylinder. We got to look. This has a 3.0 liter V6. Now I don't think the 3.0 was available in 1986. I was made to understand that only the 4-cylinder 2.3 liter Lima, which was fuel injected, and the 2.8 liter V6 Cologne were the only engine availables, in 1986 and 1987. This is saying it's a 3.0 liter V6, the Vulcan V6, which I thought did not come until 88. But if you look here, it looks like the badge is saying, as we get another pop-up window, which a little janky. That's all right. Powered by Speed Digital. It looks like it says electronic fuel injection, which I have on my 1986 Aerostar, but that's because it's the 4-liter, or the 4-cylinder, and not the 6-cylinder. So that is very curious. Something is amiss here. Either this is mislabeled, or it actually has the 4-cylinder, or Ford was offering the 3.0 and I just didn't know about it. Here, a brilliant shot. Now actually these are my least favorite Aerostar hubcaps too, but again, I'm nitpicking here. I mean, clearly this is a beautiful, absolutely pristine, and the shadow gray is really growing on me. I almost wish it was entirely shadow gray without the two-tone, but certainly the two-tone is very, very nice. No, this is not a critique here. I'm just thinking, if I found an Aerostar in this beautiful condition, what would my perfect actually spec and color scheme be? So I'm imagining a little bit here in my mind. Of course, you have the earlier style 5-spoke grille, which looks absolutely pristine. Your Aerostar Xlt badging is in red, and it is one jointed unit instead of a separate Xlt badge that would be in black. So we know this is a of the time, shall we say. Now these hubcaps, which did come on the early Aerostars, they're so funny to me because they look like the standard hubcap that you find at Walmart that is supposed to mimic an alloy wheel. Like, they look like such a generic piece. They don't look like a factory hubcap, and yet they are. Now, Ford actually did some really on this, maybe this was only on the cargo versions, but they did this like almost like flying saucer, like moon disc hubcap, and I think those are the really nice ones of the early style. I love it because in the shop you see, we have a C4 Corvette, we have a Mercedes SL there, we have some sort of like little race car replica, an old Jeep Willys in the background, looks an old Ford F-150. So I do like that this is being given the proper respect as a true classic, and it's sitting amongst all these other classics in the showroom. That to me is very wonderful. The paint just does look to be, in really, really good condition. You can see the factory roof rack, and you're getting a little preview of the interior. The red pinstriping also here, a very, very nice addition, and kind of really sets the whole thing off. And I do like that actually the bumpers here, now maybe that was just the color of the bumpers, but they do look to be the color of the body. Now this interior is really, this is where we get into some special territory. This wonderful light gray interior. And that was the other thing about 86 is I didn't know that they had digital displays in 86. I thought that came a little bit later too. So here I am learning, but you have your obviously original, pre-facelift interior, your big instrument cluster here. That's almost like a separate piece that they just slammed in there. Not as sleek as the designs of today. But it's funny because go look at an old like Lamborghini or Ferrari. Nothing was ever as sort of flowing as it is now. This was a very, very common thing, and just the quality of the interior. How do you keep that steering wheel that clean for 75,000 miles? You do have cruise control, which is wonderful. There you go, digital display. You have a warning center, and it looks like maybe your washer fluid's out in the back there. And I love that it's an actual picture of an Aerostar. That's another great feature. It's not just like a generic car. Doug DeMuro talks about this in like Aston Martins and stuff. It's like, oh, it's an actual Aston Martin. Well, here we have an actual Aerostar. Way back in 1986. Also interesting is that you have a tachometer here, because most of the early Aerostars, it was just this speedometer, and then at 55 it turns yellow. Everything about the numbers turns yellow, and on 75 it turns red. So there's no tachometer. It's just like, just be careful going this fast, no matter how many RPMs you're doing, which I find very funny. Now you do have a floor-mounted shifter here. One of the great things about the early Aerostars, they had a floor-mounted shifter, which again made it more car-like, and a big tall shifter that was kind of funny. Now same thing with the manual, but it's funny to get automatic transmission that's not on the column, especially in a van. Also, they had a handbrake. Your emergency brake was a handbrake way down by the seat, which is funny that it had some of these car-like features. There you have another beautiful shot of it. Just got to be one of the longest automatic transmission stocks that's ever been manufactured by any company. It's like over a foot long. Very funny. Then we have our VIN number. Now this is where, if I knew more about cars, I could tell you more about this, but I'm wondering if this is indeed the 4-cylinder. It's funny, the airbox looks very much like mine. Now maybe that is a 6-cylinder in there. If you're familiar with these vehicles, or just motors in general, it kind of looks a little different. It kind of does look like the intake there, or your plenum, is a little bit different than mine, which is more sort of straight. We have your underside. Your spare tire is still there. It's funny, my muffler system has this similar like orange glow to it. But very, very clean underneath. Not like, pristine, but again, this vehicle's been driven. All your lines and everything look very nice. You have your great springs here, which is very funny. And this is rare that we actually get to see an old Aerostar up on a lift. Now the interior, again, this gray, the red pinstriping comes onto the inside, that's on the outside, so very nice. And this is deluxe cloth. I mean, look at the quality of that. Your door pocket, power windows, and of course your two-tone window switches, which I just love that splash of color. Boy, even the XLT badging makes it onto this little Aerostar badge here, which was a great thing about the pre-facelift interiors. They have this little badge there. Very similar to sports cars. I mean, my X19 has a little Bertoni badge right here, signifying the design firm that made the Aerostar. I do love two-tone interiors. It's funny, I'm not crazy about two-tone exteriors, but two-tone interiors I love. I love a black and tan, and I love that your tunnel here, your dog door to gain access to the engine compartment is, your shadow gray or shadow mist or whatever they were calling it, and then that This instrument cluster here also darker, and then, you know, this middle strip is more light gray. And of course our beautiful Aerostar seats, some of the cleanest you're ever going to see. And our beautiful two-tone, color-wise, two-tone materials, and your sort of burgundy pinstriping there. It really is the complete package. I mean, the fact that the exterior and the interior match so perfectly, both feature red pinstriping and piping. Yeah, here's a great picture of it right there. You know, our dark blue, gray, and our silver and our red pinstriping just work right on into the interior. So in that respect, it is amazingly comprehensive. Now, I think this is what they're talking about when they say in-car computer, because it had this overhead display. Now, the XLT being an upper trim package, even your headliner's in beautiful condition, no sunwear or you know, maybe, I see, maybe it's, even this Pristine Aerostar has still got a little bit of your plastic molding, which is starting to fall down a little bit here, if you can see that. So even it happens to the best of them, but I believe you have like your, you know, your trip odometer and maybe some of your AC controls for the back. Quite a few luxury features for the time. Maybe your mileage, your dome lights working well, even your sun visors just in perfect condition. And the captain's chairs, again, very rare for an Aerostar to have captain's chairs. Most were just 2 sets of benches, and some of them folded into a bed, which is very nice. So the captain's chairs were a really cool option. I wonder if that was more in the XLTs that happened on. But certainly just a really just, when you see these seats, you know, you're so often to seeing them worn, that it's amazing to actually see them as they looked, you know, new. Now, and there's maybe a tiny bit of staining going on here, but you realize just, you know, it's too bad that there's not more of these preserved classics, because when you see it as it was new, you realize just how nice it was. The deluxe cloth. You have your little cup holder that pops out. I also didn't know that was a thing that happened in Aerostars. Again, maybe that was an XLT thing, but certainly a rare package here. Now here you have probably at least your audio controls. You can plug in headphones, and maybe there's some AC controls there as well. Again, the rear passengers lived in just as much luxury as the front passengers. Again, your door card there with your great door flap and your piping. This almost looks like, you know, like a vinyl leather substance here. Really is extremely clean. Your great stock there, and you have some nice interior mood lighting here going on. This is a funny feature on these early Aerostars that people forget about. They had a little a key lock here. So when I take the key out of my 86 Aerostar, I can't just take it out. I have to push this little button here up, and then I can release the key, which is like kind of a funny safety feature. You know, it's like they say the manual transmission is like theft deterrent now, because people don't know how to drive it. This is also a kind of a funny thing. If you took this to the valet, they'd probably struggle forever to try to get your key out. And this would be a great car to take to a place that had valet parking, for sure. Looks like your steering wheel probably tilts, because that's almost in school bus setting right there. Liftgate looks like your struts are still working. And you can see a great view of the Aerostar with the tailgate lifted. Now this tailgate was made of some sort of composite material, along with, I believe, the hood, which was like sort of a weight saving measure, which is kind of hilarious that they were saving weight on this minivan, but you know, every little bit counts. And certainly, again, you know, a nice feature. Even the logo is not like, you know, faded or cracked or anything like that. Just really beautiful. Another great shot of the Aerostar Xlt badge. This could be a wallpaper on my computer, you know, just electronic fuel injection. There you go. So I got to do some more research. Oh, there's a little nick there. I like how they put the you know, tape measure up. This is obviously a reputable seller, because they're going to such detail to take these beautiful pictures. Another little blemish there. You know, 75,000 miles. Again, it's like hard to believe that something could be this nice. Little ding there. We have our owner's guide. It almost looks like the exact same, you know, spec as the vehicle itself, although here you just have some steel wheels without the hubcaps. Honestly, I think you just ripped those hubcaps off and the steel wheels look better anyways. 1723, so 23 miles per gallon. Not bad for a minivan. And there you have your original window sticker. Really just stunning. And there it is again. You see the whole family going camping, you know. Whatever you want to do. A great, you know, 3/4 shot here. We can see the beautiful lines on the Aerostar, which we've talked about so much. And yeah, I'm just so miffed by this. You know, the fact that perhaps the your window switch is there. Red is down, blue is up. A little bit of weathering going on there, but blue is unlock, red is unlock. I'm sorry, blue is lock. These switches are so fun because they're just so mechanical. For your wipers and your headlights, a big button to push, very fun. Looks like you got some defrost. You got your rear windshield wiper there, and they really have you know, your cruise control settings, your fan and your heat and your AC controls, all just these toggle dials that are now here you have your English and metric button. That's hilarious. Your trip reset, your gauge select for your up top computer there. There it is, your trip computer here. So it was a computer in a car. Amazing. Can't even believe it. Fuel used, AV economy, instant economy. Really, I mean, you're getting instant economy readout on your miles per gallon, anything like that. Really quite, you have your range here left. Quite advanced for the time, especially again in a minivan. This isn't like a, you know, luxury car or a sports car or something like that. Your Ford tape deck here with your balance, all mechanical settings, and then of course maybe we'll get a shot of your equalizer here. Just, you know, graphic equalizer. It's so crazy. You can fine tune everything. Really amazing. And of course your ashtray, cigarette lighter. Nice little glove compartment there, with lighted, of course. Your pedal box, your hood release, your dimmer for your dome lights and whatnot. Just amazing. Just really, really slick. And they got the engine bay all cleaned up there. So what I have to do is I have to figure out, oh, let me have it up on the lift here. Again, more pictures of your interior. Sorry, I'm just flipping through these. This is going to be a long video as it is. Your radiator, transmission. Looks like your drive shaft there. And your pumpkin. Brake lines. Yeah, maybe it's got a little bit of something seeping out there. No big deal. Tires looking in pretty good condition. Your rear drum brakes, front discs. Even your jack points. Looks like the car was always jacked up correctly by the frame and not on these things, which will of course bend and peel if you keep jacking them at the same point. Just a beautiful, stunning example here. Your hubcaps, which I really do not love. No Ford, no Ford signage or anything. They just look so generic. But clearly a special piece of Aerostar history. And just a million pictures. There we go, with your American flag in the background. Beautiful front three-quarter shot of it, and quite special. So I'm just so miffed by the fact that you have your digital instrumentation and apparently your fuel-injected 6-cylinder motor offered in 1986. This makes no sense with what Wikipedia or anyone else has told me. So I have to do some research because this is really really making me wonder. Specifications, yeah, 3.3 liter V6, and this site, I have to figure they're selling all these classic cars. They have to know a little something about what's going on. Trade-in. Oh, look, I can offer to trade in a car for this, so I could get, maybe I should trade something in, get financing on this, and then stash it and outperform the stock market. Maybe there's video of it. Can we watch video? Is this copyrighted?
How's it going, everyone? Steve here with the GR Auto Gallery, and today I have the pleasure of showing you around this 1986 Ford Aerostar Xlt wagon.
He says, Steve, and I have the pleasure of showing you around this 1986 Ford Xlt wagon. So it really is his pleasure, and I'm glad he said that. Buyback, guaranteed buyback on any vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and watch that video, and maybe he'll illuminate us as to something about the engine, because that's really, really astonishing to me. So grumbling aside about the color combination and the basically just being bitter by the fact that I wasn't able to buy this car for $6,000 when it came up. Certainly a very stunning, amazing, yeah, way back time machine. It's a time capsule. You get to see what this car looked like when it came out, and certainly it's wonderful that it's an XLT package, so it has all the baubles and bolt-ons and bells and whistles, and that trip computer and the digital instrument cluster, your graphic equalizer on your stereo, captain's chairs, just the whole package. Like, I really do hope someone buys this and just hangs on to it and keeps it clean and pristine, because, you know, in another 20-30 years it'll just be that much more remarkable. And the Aerostar really does hold a special place in the automotive world because it totally changed the game. I read another, I think Haggerty has a great article about how the Aerostar, and I'll throw the Astro in there too, they really sort of, without knowing it, invented the crossover market, because now everything you buy, you know, probably 60 or 70% of cars sold are these crossovers where you're not really sure if it's a car or an SUV or a truck. A lot of them have all-wheel drive. It's very important to people. You're sitting up a little higher. And frankly, they're about the same size as an Aerostar is. When you see a standard length Aerostar, standard version, not the extended version, you realize that they are quite compact and yet have a lot of room. Now, the Aerostar even had some advantages over that, because I would argue there's even more storage space in the top because it was this box-like structure. Now everything's all like sort of angular, and even though it's tall and big like a Nissan Juke, you're really not getting that much room inside. So, you know, again, just the Aerostar, a phenomenal, fantastic vehicle, ahead of its time, and still very much relevant today. So there you have it. The 1986 Ford Aerostar Xlt being sold in Grand Rapids, Michigan for $10,400. Just $131 a month if you want to finance it. And maybe they do offer financing. And, you know, maybe next year if this thing's still available, I'll trade something in on it and do something crazy. You never know with me. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. Please comment on this and tell me what you think. And if you know anything about these 80s Fords and the model line and the engines, I'm just really stunned by this. And it's hard to find out a lot of information on these vehicles because Aerostars, unlike Corvettes or something like that, there's not a lot of people in the community that can just, you know, pick every single detail and keep the historical awareness of this vehicle and all the little minutia of its manufacture, you know, carrying that on for generations to come. It's very hard to find information on this. I still have yet to find out who exactly is responsible for the aesthetic design of the Aerostar. I have some guesses, and maybe it was sort of designed by a team, but there had to be a couple of individuals who actually penned the final design for this. And it's very, very hard to find. Yet, at least we still have the finished product, and at least there have been some of these Aerostars that have been preserved enough that we get an idea of what they were like when they were brand new, and I'm very thankful for that. And thankful to you for watching here on Year of the Aerostar on Janky AF, and until next time, Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap